It's 1 minute. So I do need the mic, you said? I should use the mic? All right, I'm not used to mics. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And my name is Carolyn Monastra. I am a native Clevelander, which means I'm from Ohio, but I first came to New York to go to college and have lived here for about 20 years. So I'm happy to invite all of you. How many of us, is it your first time in New York? For many of you? Yeah, yeah. And where are you all from? All France? No. Yeah. Everywhere. Yeah. Okay, a real mix. Oh, yes? Okay. Hello. Hello. Welcome. We're just getting started. So I have a tight schedule because there's a lot of information, and I made this little PowerPoint presentation and had to actually keep cutting things out because there's so much I want to tell you, and certainly this can just be the start of a conversation. So I'm going to, while I'm thinking about it, pass around my business cards. There's a couple different ones here, but they're basically all the same, earlier and older. So if you guys can just pass these around. And just, stay in touch with me. If you shoot me an email, I'll add you to my mailing list. I don't like to add people unless they want to be added. But today we're going to talk about not just photography and climate change, but art and climate change, because I realize that so many of the projects I admire are not done by photographers, but by various artists. So, I'll be talking about my photography, but also the things that other people are doing. Did everyone get to watch the video, Story of Stuff, and at least familiarize yourself with a little bit of those artists' works? So let's go ahead and we'll go. But really what I want to talk to you about is giving you some practical tools and tips for how you can, best work with art or photography. How many of you consider yourself photographers? Anyone? Anyone? Amateur? Okay. Well, I was too at your age. So, and how many of you are artists in some way? Okay, good. So even if you don't consider yourself a photographer or an artist, you can obviously use these tools. And we'll go ahead to the next one. But the first thing you have to do is know your own inspiration. Why are you here? I mean, you guys traveled very far to come here, and you're obviously dedicated to the issue of climate change. So what brought you here today? You want to think about what your inspiration is. And for me, it was interesting. I've been working on a website, and so when you go to my website right now, it's just a partial website. But I've been thinking about things that inspired me, and I found this book I made in high school, and I was going to bring it today, but I wasn't able to carry it up. But and it was about me being out in nature. I used a quote. We had learned calligraphy in my art class, and I took pictures of myself out in the landscape, and I used this quote from Henry David Thoreau, who was one of the transcendentalist great nature writers in the U.S., and so it goes all the way back to high school, I think, my love of nature. And so really, if I think about it, that's where my true inspiration for this project, The Witness Tree, came from. But, more recently what happened was I heard an interview on the radio with Bill McKibben. Do any of you know Bill McKibben and 350.org? And that literally, as I was driving my car, I heard an interview with him, and I wanted to stop the car, get out, and just walk, But that's really what did it. But what you really want to think about as you're, doing any kind of presentation or project is what was your inspiration, and always trying to make it personal, bringing that back. Okay, next. So knowing your audience, right? So you guys will probably mostly be dealing with other students right now, but not necessarily. People might hear about your project, and my target audience, I say, is 15 to 25-year-olds, because that's the next generation of voters and innovators and scientists and, leaders. But people have said to me, you should talk to 11 and 12-year-olds because they are still forming their ideas, their impressions. And I've talked to students as young as 6 years old, which was a little challenging to me, but I just showed them lots of pictures of polar bears and penguins, and that got their interest, right? So, you think about what they're doing. Now, my parents' generation, my mom doesn't use Twitter. She feels bad. She doesn't even text, but she's about to turn 80. So for her generation, if I give a presentation to older people, I talk about more formal methods. They like to read my blog. Even a friend of my mom's who's not interested or doesn't believe in climate change, she watches Fox News, if you know what Fox News is. It's evil. But she told me how much she admires what I'm doing in my blog, and she enjoys reading my blog posts. So that's what works for her, reading, right, and the pictures together. So every audience is going to be different. Every time I give a presentation, I do a new PowerPoint. I have not been able to repeat one. I just would feel guilty that I'm not tailoring it to my audience. Okay, so we'll go. Also talk about, I have these postcards too, which I'm using as an action, so we'll talk about that. I met this older gentleman in South Carolina, and South Carolina is a very conservative state. And so, but he's an environmentalist and doing a lot of work on conservation there. And I asked him, I said, well, when you talk to people about climate change on here, how do they respond? Because I feel like I can't talk about climate change down here, they'll just shut up. And he said, I don't talk to them about climate change. He said, I'll try to do a southern accent. He said, I don't talk to them about climate change. I talk to them about the things they love, hunting, fishing, etc. And so he talks about taking care of the things, and if we don't do this, if we don't preserve this piece of land, we're going to lose this. So he, again, comes at his audience from a good place. Are you here for the photography? Come on in. That's okay. Join us. That's okay. Welcome. Okay, next slide. Okay, and I also decided I'm going to just send you this PowerPoint presentation, so don't worry about taking too many notes. I'll just send you the whole presentation with some other resources. So make it visible, stage public art events. Social media is great. I am in my 40s, so I'm not a great social media person. You know, I was on Facebook this morning posting for the happy hour that Human Impacts and Climates are doing, but I signed up for Twitter. I have yet to tweet, so things like that. So I'm more of an email person. I do like letter writing, but creating actual events I think is very important, as well as using social media. So whether you want to do a flash mob or something like that, but make it public. Because I'm recommending things like the school's cafe, your library, your dorms, whether you get permission or not, you decide. But let's go on. And then I'm going to show you a few projects that I admire. So this is one called the Canary Project, and they do many, many different things. So this is just one of their projects. But they did this thing, and I didn't get to see it, unfortunately, but called Increase Your Albedo. Does anyone know what your albedo is? It's a big climate change word. No? Anyone want to take a stab? Anyone in the sciences?
The any surface, and so the wider it is, then what affects the sun into the
Right, so it's reflecting the sun. So what they did was they went around, I think just different locations in New York City, and created these white reflective surfaces. So this is just all white t-shirts, and they would bring this around and then hang it in different public locations. They had events where they would have people walk around in all white, to create an albedo effect. Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember who said the idea, but we had the idea of creating an albedo day. People wearing white t-shirts all around.
There you go. Yeah. So people are thinking about that. And we'll go next slide. Thanks, Vik. This one was a campaign in Buenos Aires by the Red Cross, which I thought was really interesting. So they have this guy melting, like, global warming, and he's handing out pamphlets. God knows how they did that, but somehow they must have gotten down into the sidewalk. But I think it's obviously very attention-getting, right? Doesn't hurt he's handsome, right? So use your best-looking people. No, you can go next, yep. And this is something I just thought of the other day. I teach at a community college on Long Island, and it drives me crazy that the paper we use for the Xerox machines is not recycled paper. And what they've done is they say, oh, no, we use recycled paper, and it's only the colored paper you use for like special banners, and it's only 30% recycled. I was at my school yesterday, and I noticed now we are using paper that comes from Australia. And I thought, why are we getting paper from Australia? So I decided what I'm going to do is go around to all the art departments and collect paper from the recycling bins and have a paper airplane making day, and then just like hang them up all over the school and create an albedo effect at the same time, right? Okay. Next slide. So make it doable, make it easy. Like, have you all seen the film Chasing Ice? If you haven't, you really, really should try to see it. I don't know if it's available online. Might be streaming. But it's really great. So James Baylog is an amazing photographer. He has an incredible amount of financial support to do this project, though. I can't do it. Every time people hear what I'm doing, they're like, oh, do you know James Baylog's, what he's doing? And I was like, yeah, that's great, but I'm self-funding my project, so I can't do that. But so think of what you can do, or maybe see if you can work with James Baylog. Try to work with someone who's doing something more large scale. Okay, next slide. And then these are just a few artists, and I literally, some of these I knew about, but I just did a Google the other night to just try to find some really simple things that people are doing. And again, maybe not directly related to climate change, but I think the more you can connect to various issues to climate change, you're going to find people that attach to that. So nobody likes to see trash, and this guy, Barry Rosenthal, just picked all kinds of trash up from the beaches, and then he makes these displays that are really meant to just be, exhibited as photographs. So next one. This is one of his too, just all shoes and soles from, again, things collected on the beach. These artists, I saw this exhibit a long time ago, so I was happy to kind of see this pop up when I did my search. They collect piles of trash, and then what happens is their installations really only exist when a light is on it. I think there's one more from them too. Yeah, it's a little skyline. So it's all just trash. If the projection wasn't on, the light wasn't on, it wouldn't seem to be beautiful, right? But they're creating something beautiful. Okay, next one. Vik Muniz does a lot of, he's an amazing photographer again, but he does lots of different kinds of displays that are only meant to exist as photographs. So he builds these elaborate things and then takes them apart. And these are all pictures made from garbage. Okay, next one. Hashoosh, he creates, and I just learned about him, but he creates these large people figures out of trash and then displays them in public spaces. Okay, next one. Okay, so maybe this isn't so easy for us to do. This is not doable, but think about this on a small scale. Maybe if you just do one trash man in your school somewhere, you can manage that. Okay, and here's some photographers who are doing. We're getting much more people. This is good. No, this is good, but we're going to need them. Go. Photography is an started bringing the postcards. So I'll pass these